name is Chewy.
And I'm Vanessa. And this is No Filters, No Fears.
Podcast. Well, as you know, today's episode is about addiction.
This episode, Chewy, addiction. I'm sure you have a definition.
Yes. Addiction is defined as a chronic relapsing disorder characterized by compulsive drug seeking, continued use despite harmful consequences, and long lasting changes in the brain.
Right. And of course, that's a specified definition of addiction. Addiction doesn't have to be just substance abuse. There's addiction to a plethora of things. Hi, Christopher. Yeah, drugs. It's sad. It really is. Like, we're telling you now, this is a level what?
5 elephants. 5.
It's 5 elephants. It's heavy duty, but it's a necessary conversation because it's something that plagues our society. And like I said, it's not just drug addiction, although it is one of the more widely recognized and acknowledged problems.
Right.
It's also addiction to... What are some addictions that you can think of off the top of your head, Shumi?
Besides coffee?
Hi, Carlos. Coffee. I have this addiction. I'm not even going to front. I have an addiction to caffeine. I've been trying to wean off of it, and it's not easy.
Yeah, because I found a list of like the top 10, was it? And I was impressed that coffee was number 1.
Really? Oh, I'm ready to hear the whole list.
And if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but doing research and actually looking at what are the top 10 addictions, this is a wide range of addiction, guys. Remember, we're not only talking about like drugs, we're talking about all sorts, including like food and gambling and a multitude of other things.
So what are the top 10 that popped up for you?
Coffee, tobacco and nicotine, alcohol, sex addiction, illegal prescription drugs, gambling, and internet and modern technology, which, yeah.
So is that in the order? Like number 1 was number 2.
Order. Yeah.
Number 2 was what?
Number 2 was tobacco and nicotine. And then number 3, alcohol. Number 4, sex addiction. 5, illegal and prescription drugs. 6, gambling. 7, internet and modern technology. 8, video games. And then 9 was food. And then 10, work. So
I can probably stake claim to a couple on that list.
Yeah. We could. Yeah.
It's funny. Gambling is fun, but not if you have an addiction to it, Christopher. That can be very serious. I've known people who've gambled away their home without their family knowing, and they lose their home. They gambled away their cars. I had a friend who had a shopping addiction who would just buy, and put so much debt on credit cards and such that, they did almost lose their home. So,
but most people do not realize that certain things are addictions until it gets out of hand.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes a problem, obviously. But I found other ones like, heroin, cocaine,
right. I'm actually really surprised, honestly, that substance abuse like heroin, crack, and those kind of like street drugs weren't on there.
Me too. That's why I was like, but that's why I was saying, like, I looked for more lists that just included everything.
But it
like
doesn't. Yeah, but it doesn't surprise me at all that prescription drugs becoming as like a top addiction is on there, because doctors nowadays so easily prescribe pain medications,
right?
and it's easier to get things like you got to get a prescription somehow somewhere from someone, and it's really scary that that's as accessible as it is. So people have stemmed away. And there was a video, the video that I sent you earlier, that I saw. It basically compared two situations: heroin that you find in the street that gets diluted or mixed with a bunch of other drugs versus, I'm gonna slaughter it, what was it,
Dopamine?
no, it's not dopamine. It's
What?
another one. I'll find it as you talk in a moment. And but it's basically heroin that they give you in the hospital when you break a bone, right?
Oh, yeah, that is stronger than anything that's out there. I
Right.
don't know which one you're talking about. I forgot. Yeah.
But people don't necessarily get addicted when they get out. It's when they get prescribed at home in certain situations that they have no supervision of the use,
Right.
right? That things can get kind of funky.
And it's scary that people have gone to the extent of actually trying to get hurt to go to the hospital for that. And it's crazy.
No, Christopher, serotonin is a good drug. We like having serotonin.
Right,
That's
right.
that's the happy one. That's the happy hormone that makes us, it's a good thing to have. Um Opioids are absolutely a problem. It's a very big problem in the United States right now. Um Coffee. So like let's start with I think
Mm.
I think it's fair to start with like quote unquote the smaller addictions, the ones that we may not recognize as, oh,
Okay.
that's an addiction. Because, I think we all
It
know.
eventually it becomes something more and more serious. I mean, even though they are all serious in their own way, it's just that you don't recognize it as a problem. You think you're fine, but then when you stop drinking, for example, like I used to like Coca Cola a lot, like drink it like it was water. But then when I stopped drinking it, I felt that urge of like I was missing something, and I realized it was the caffeine that it provided. And drinking it so much, my body was just so used to it. And it's been like almost like what 5 years since I had Coca Cola or any like Coke products or any products of caffeine of that
Yeah.
nature. I don't drink coffee, so I just water and tea for now. Even tea, depends. If you put a lot of like sugar, so then you
Right.
should.
Because that's it. For example, in Coca-Cola, we talked about this actually when we were talking about this episode. In Coca-Cola, yes, the caffeine is very addictive, but on top of that, add the copious amounts of sugar
Hmm.
in sodas. Sugar is a huge drug. It's a huge uh, addictor. And they have all those detoxes, which like 21 days, but it takes 21 days to kind of like reset the mind and get your
Right.
body back to zero of not craving
And,
sugar in that way.
and it could be
Um,
weird because you're like, oh my god, you are feeling like desperate because you are needing that, and it's
right?
crazy.
But it's that crash. It's that
Mhm.
crash that happens. I know that, for example, I drink so much coffee. I drink a lot less coffee now, but I can, if si me deja to my devices, I will drink like 3, 4, 5, 6 cups a day. When I was working for this translation company. I was working out of WeWork, and they have a coffee station. I was constantly getting up and drinking coffee. I would have 8, 9, 10 cups of coffee in a row, and coladas, and that's a lot of coffee. And I was wired, but the crash that happens after, or like if you don't have coffee the next day at all. Hi, Cindy. Or the have you ever, when you were like really heavy into drinking Coca-Cola, if you wouldn't drink it, you would get headaches? Would you get headaches?
Yeah, I will get the headaches. I will get like the shakes. I will get like
Man, I would feel so sick.
desperate. Yeah.
Yeah. Increased tolerance. Therapist Helen is in the building. Increased tolerance and withdrawals are marker symptoms. Yeah. Could you explain marker symptoms, please? Marker symptoms, at least the way I'm interpreting it, because I am not. What are we not? We are not
This
therapists. But
weird.
luckily, Helen is a therapist intern, and so she can help us out with those things. But I interpret it as being those kind of like marker things that tell us, oh, I should probably start backing away from this because it's becoming a bad habit,
Hmm.
a something harmful to my health.
Yeah, and I realized that I was like, holy hell! So 5 years, about to be 6 years now. I'm like, I don't need, and it's I feel healthy and I feel better because it's not in my system. And you know what Coke does to you, Coca Cola, what does to
Right.
you,
Yeah.
and you know
Although
they.
we do know the history of Coca-Cola.
Oh yeah, with the actual cocaine in it. Yeah, the signs.
Yeah.
Oh, red flags.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Coca-Cola like from the beginning, at the beginning actually had, it was
Yeah.
called cocaine cola.
Yeah.
It had cocaine in it. That is insane. And I think they just replaced the Coke with a different kind of Coke, which is sugar.
Right. Right.
So it doesn't uh kill you as quickly as cocaine would, but it definitely starts causing a lot of damage to your organs,
I noticed America didn't get kidney stones. Like,
right?
and I mean, I'm not laughing at the fact. It's just it's insane,
Right,
you
when you
know.
think
Yeah.
back, to like how absolutely.
And
And
now
sorry, go ahead.
the much water I'm drinking now, that's the equivalent how much Coca Cola was drinking. So I'm happy that I switched.
It's a better balance. And what was number 2? I don't remember what number 2 was.
Tobacco and nicotine.
God bless America. Listen, do we
And there's
even
statistics and stuff here. I was like, yo, this is too high.
I'm amazed at the high number of cigarette smokers that still exist in the world, considering what we know about
Like,
cigarettes.
but again, it's the that feeling, the addiction they need it. They need to
Yeah.
have that in their system. So
Well, it's a highly addictive
yeah,
habit, o como dicen en español, vicio,
and this
right? El vicio. And sometimes certain addictions kind of stem out of ritual, not necessarily
mm,
addiction, right? Because I've heard it discussed and I've read quite a few articles. This is not based on science, it's just articles I've read and that I can completely understand the basis. For example, marijuana is not an addictive drug whatsoever. It is actually a medicine. It's a wonderful thing. I support this. But we create the addiction to it, right? In the ritual of it, in the habit of going to it in circumstances not necessarily for medicinal purposes, right? For
right,
coping, but for coping and escapism, right?
right,
Versus rationalizing is a big player in addiction maintenance and relapse, absolutely. So, but something like cigarettes, that is very addictive. And then add to that the habit of like, oh no, it's when I go on break at work. Oh no, it's only when I go to a bar. If you all of a sudden start going to a bar very frequently, or you start and you that's just your routine, it becomes ya el saborcito está ahí. And then I had a friend that started just, oh, when we go on our breaks from you know costume designers, they have like a cigarette break. It became that they would go on a lot of breaks and a lot of breaks, and then they were smoking a pack a day, 2 packs a day, and it quickly grew out of what they had intention, what their intention originally was, which was just a little cigarette here and there.
yeah. I know someone that goes on break and they smoke a cigarette because they're bored. They don't know what to do. And I give that person so many other things for them to do. You want to take your hour break? Go outside for a walk. Go enjoy the sun. Go barefoot on your grass and go read a book or go watch whatever you have.
But part of so what I believe part of the addictive things of this is that kind of instant gratification, that instant release, right? So a lot of people smoking gives them a woosah moment,
Right.
right? Different drugs have different effects. They give you that pick me up, that high, everything is beautiful, everything is this. You can get lost and really chase after that need for that feeling, right? And I think that's where it starts to become scary. Like for me, in my family, we know that there's a propensity for addiction to narcotics and specifically like cocaine. So that's absolutely something I would never try in my life because I've seen what it's done to people in my family, but also close to me. And it's not a path I want to travel down. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um,
But it's like a video we posted on our Instagram. Like the guy was saying that it's like a dopamine type of thing that you get that high, and then afterwards it's just your body doesn't recognize it anymore, so you don't feel that high anymore. So you just want more and more and more.
yes. I am so glad that Helen brought up high functioning addiction. It's debilitating to an individual without necessarily being noticeable to an outsider.
It's
Um, there are high functioning alcoholics,
oh
and
yeah,
alcoholism is, I've seen it at its worst. It can be really scary. It can be really, really scary. Um, and it's one of those. I had a friend who I'm very close to that at the peak of their alcoholism, they were working and doing their thing, but they were going through bottles and bottles of alcohol a day. And at night, they hit it even harder. But throughout the day, you really couldn't tell. And you
right,
couldn't tell if they were drunk or there was just something off, were they sad or what was going on. And a important thing to remember about some of these drugs, especially something like alcohol, it's a depressant.
right.
So if you're already in an emotional space, depression is not something that's just you feeling sad. It's beyond that. It's imbalances. So on top of that, you add this outside factor of
It makes it
alcohol
worse.
that is a depressant. At first, yeah, que rico, que inhibitions lost. And then when that crash happens, you are harder in your feels than before, and you're causing yourself so much mental and physical harm.
And then you don't realize how it's truly affecting everybody around you.
Absolutely. And I think it's also really fair because we're talking about what the problem is, right? What leads
Right,
to these addictions are this addictions are that, and high functioning versus. But I think it's really fair to say that addiction is a disease. It's not, it's like, it's something that once it takes over the person, they do absolutely need to seek help, and they need understanding, not people to be like, fuck you, and throw them out, throw them to the curb, you know, or consider that because they've stolen to meet their, addiction, either be it gambling or be it a drug, they've stolen or they've done this. It's something that's no longer within their control.
right.
It's
They
outside
don't,
of them. Yeah.
they
And it's
don't
not
need
all
to,
that they are.
right. And that's the stigma that's around drugs or addicts, I mean. So,
Right. It's really sad. For example, in this that video from YouTube, we didn't want to use it, guys, because both of us are really against animal testing. And unfortunately, there's a lot of mention of that. And then, unfortunately, that's where how a lot of medical advancement has been made. But we didn't want to like promote that on our pages. But if you're interested in knowing what this video that I'm talking about is, we can send you the link. But at the end of it, it talked about the Vietnam vets, right? And they talk about how addiction is, yes, of course, these drugs and these things, because they don't just talk about drugs. They talk about social media. They talk about, sex addiction. They talk about the different types of addiction or things that one can become addicted to.
right,
And they say that yes, that is a factor, but it's also the cage, because those tests that they did showed that when placed in a happier environment, right, in a supportive environment, there was less draw for the need of that
yeah,
addicting thing, right? So in Vietnam, there were a lot of soldiers that were getting heavy into heroin and whatnot, and it was assumed that when they would return, they would continue, but a lot of soldiers didn't. They came back to their home and they were able to make peace. However, I will say this: Vietnam was a horrendous thing for vets, because those that did come back and did not have support, because they surely did not have support from society, and they
right.
didn't have support from the government, and the vet hospitals back then were atrocious, and they were coming back with missing limbs and in pain and, PTSD and weren't being properly treated, that a lot of them ended up homeless in the street and addicted. And that is horrendous that we would do that to people that, you know, rehabilitation services is greater than punishment. Absolutely. It
Right.
goes back it goes back to the shame episode. Shaming people into feeling bad of, you are this, you are that. That's not going to help them grow. It's not going to help them want to change or see or recognize that they need help.
Right. They need to be more understanding and more receptive of what's happening and being like, okay, how can we help? Or
Right.
here's help.
Or yeah, the guy pushing them towards,
Yeah.
because a lot of it is también que, we want people to hold themselves accountable. Holding up a mirror is not just shouting at them what their problem is. And that happens in like Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous, that part of the steps is to
Yeah.
admit that you have a problem, to recognize it. And
Stop.
that takes a lot. That's hard. In life, it's hard.
Right.
It's not just drugs. Vanessa, at least admit that I have a problem with always wanting to please people. That is a problem.
Yeah, because it controls your life because you're trying to please everybody and you don't realize that you can't.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
And if you
admitting it,
don't,
acknowledging it. And it's just,
right.
no, because I want to be nice.
Right. That's the first step. I mean, it's something small, but it's still something that could potentially be, controlling your life to the point where you can't live your life. So there's a ranges of everything.
Yeah. And on that list is sex addiction, which I think is one of very, no comment on that one. Peter, now I want to know what your comment is.
On the people pleasing,
Go ahead, Peter. Come at me, bro. Your commission is getting smaller and smaller, my friend.
I think he doesn't mean towards you. I think he means a personal one as well. Maybe
Like he also, okay, I feel, okay, then no pop out for you, Peter.
your
I feel
commission.
you. We're on the same boat.
Well,
Yeah.
no, guys, you could comment whatever
Please
you want to
share.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be difficult to say, oh, I recognize, because, for example, there are things that we don't recognize. There is, for example, the other day, I was discussing about addictions to NRE, new relationship energy. There are people who are hooked on just that new high of connecting with someone, how exciting, how wonderful, da, 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 da. And once that's kind of gone for them,
that's it.
They got to find the next one.
Right.
Right? That's what they call the serial daters.
Serial.
Right?
Okay.
Need support too. The relationship dynamics need healing.
Okay.
Yes. I think like one of the most important things that I
found a couple of links for that for family members.
Oh, that's awesome. One of the things I find like most important to share, and I think you can speak on this too, Chubi, is about finding help. Get yourself a mental health professional, because a lot of these things also stem from other places, other unresolved emotional traumas sometimes. Not all the time, but get somebody who can help you and put you on the right path so that you are taking care of the cause and not just the symptom.
And there's no problem on like talking to a therapist. Don't be ashamed, to go ask for help. Yeah. And there's a 24/7 therapist in that I found called BetterHelp, and they're always there for you. And you could find this is not an ad, but you could find one that could help you there that is to your specific needs. And it's just to talk. You could talk to a therapist or whomever just to talk. There's no need like to be a specific thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just asking for help.
Absolutely. Well, I look for the well-being of others more than I do of myself, working on that, but it's an issue. Well, I'm glad you're working on it, Peter. I am too. It's not easy. I think I said it in another episode that I'm also a chronic, I'm sorrier, apologizing for everything. It comes from a good place, but if it's starting to if you're putting others' needs above your own, and it's, putting your own mental health or physical health in jeopardy, that's where it starts to be an issue. And for me, it started being a mental health issue. And exhaustion, physical exhaustion, because you start giving from an empty cup. There's nothing to give from anymore.
It's like, okay.
So you're not really being the most present and the best for that person who's seeking
100%.
the help, or vice versa. And sometimes you're giving and trying to be nice of something that wasn't even asked of you, and then like you're feeling really drained unnecessarily.
The residual energy there from everybody is like,
Yeah.
you need to fill that cup, so you gotta go take 5 or something.
And we were saying, it was number 5, sex addiction.
4.
4. Look at that, 4. That's up there.
Yeah.
And I think it's really misunderstood. What has been your experience, or when you hear about sex addiction, what are common things that you've heard or
That
interpreted?
they need it 24/7, that they can't stop thinking about it, that they crave it, that they're just there always in that moment, that they just want it. So
Right.
it's nothing much about
Yeah,
it.
and but I
At any time.
it's a difficult thing to like understand, or want to be empathetic about, because
Right.
automatically we think, oh, because we have that shameful society of ours that wants to point a finger and call things names, slut, fuck boy, whatever the case may be. Granted, there are some people out there that just, it's puro descaro, okay?
Oh yeah. No,
It's
yeah.
just descaro. There is no ethical, because there is such a thing as being ethical about, and your body's your body. You can do whatever the hell you want to
Right.
do. Man, woman, goat. That is your prerogative. And nobody should have any say in that. However, an addiction is very different, because it starts affecting their ability to go to work, their to provide for themselves, or if they have a family and they have this addiction. So that's where it starts to deviate from just el descaro, right? Y la sinvergüencería.
Right.
Descaro, hashtag descaro, is like when you have no decorum about it. You're just being frivolous and about it. Usually, these individuals also carry great shame and experience intense highs and lows after sexual experiences, which tend to be high risk. Absolutely. Late, but here and listening, thankful. Hi, Dana. So glad that you're listening. Yes, thank you for sharing that, Helen. It's really true. Like, all of those kinds of addictions, I feel like they absolutely have to come from a place of shame, or from some kind of experience. I know a few sex addicts that are friends of mine, that their addiction stems from actual abuse in their past.
Right.
And this is how it manifested for them. Is not distressed how all the sex you want. Exactly. Amen. I preach.
We are thankful for Helen for being here and sharing her,
We're going to be playing a little audio clip from Therapist Helen a little bit later. But yes, it's important, because in adding to that already shame of things that we don't understand, what do you mean there's such a thing as an addiction to sex? What do you mean there's such a thing as an addiction to food? That person's just fat. That person just has no self-control. It's so easy to make that judgment, because it's not your problem. You're not the one suffering it.
Right. They don't understand it. So they just look from their perspective, and it's like they don't even consider other possibilities. And that's another problem too. It's like, stop judging people or shaming other people for something you don't understand.
Right. There's the whole addiction to having to look a certain way, body dysmorphia. Right? And it can go in two sides of the spectrum. It could be like the person who does not stop working out, right? They tear ligaments, they do the whole thing, they push their bodies to extremes that can potentially be unhealthy.
Looking at themselves in the mirror every day, pointing out what's wrong with them, saying that this clothes doesn't look good on them, saying that they need to lose more weight, and it can become a problem.
Right. And in their minds, they do not see what everyone else sees.
Oh, of course.
we think that we're helping, right? Sometimes we really think that we're helping, and with the best of intentions and love, we're saying, but I see you and you're beautiful and you look so good. Your muscles, man, I wish I had those washboard abs, or man, I wish I was that skinny. And they are hearing, they're listening to you, but they're not hearing you
Right.
because it doesn't resonate with them. It's not where they're at, and that I really feel for people that are in that space. I know I've been in that space. I can recognize that I'm not trying to be cocky, y'all. I can recognize that I'm a beautiful woman and I have a lot to offer as a human being, but it's been a journey in accepting how I am physically and knowing that yes, it's up to me to do something to change it, but whilst on that journey, I need to be accepting of what already is.
Right.
But that's easier said than felt or done.
Right. And that's the problem. It's easier to, you know. That's a hard one for me as well. So
about about the physical.
Yeah, about body dysmorphia. It's a tough one. We talked about it before. So.
Yeah, and is there anything that anybody can say that is soothing?
Not really.
No, right?
Not really. Because you could say everything and it's like, and at the end of the day, it's still how I feel.
The work has to be yours. That
exactly. Your mind, you have to reframe. And
oh, what was that? Hashtag reframe.
You do. You have to reframe, but it's still like, you could hear it 1,000 times, but it's still not going to make you feel any better. It's not. No matter what they say. You're not living the truth, my truth. It's me. And that
absolutely. And the reason we use the elephants is because we recognize that what may seem very simple or easy to discuss to us may not be to someone else, because we all have our individual triggers.
Right.
And it's nobody else's job to call them out in a negative manner. You can hope for someone to not feel that way because you want what better for them. But the reality is that journey is their own. And we all have triggers that may make perfect sense. And other triggers are like, why the hell is this a trigger right now? The other day I got triggered by something really random out of nowhere. And I shut the hell down. Has that ever happened to you? A really random ass trigger that you did not even know was a trigger. And then you're like, dun, 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 dun,
yeah, you're like, right, and then you're thinking about it and you're like, but why? See, I tend to ignore it because it's like, why? If I don't know why, I don't know if they're random why am I going to want to bother with it? And that's the problem. Like, you have to try to figure out why this random trigger came about. And then when you actually figure it out, maybe, you get to heal a little bit. And now so next time, it won't hit as hard.
Yeah. So what else was on that?
Well, as you know, prescriptions, which we already know, gambling, internet, and video games, and then obviously the food.
Internet and video games. I know by virtue of the fact of what we do for a living, and we're artists and whatnot, we're on the computer and phone a lot.
For me, if I wasn't doing anything with social media, I would literally not have it. That's how much I despise social media. Like, I would not have no Instagram, no Facebook, no nothing. But because I'm a photographer and because we do this podcast and because that's the modern way of actually, networking, that's why I have it. Other than that, I don't want to have it because it's too much. It is draining.
I enjoy it. But I do recognize that it's next level, and my mom calls me out on it all the time. Tú siempre estás en el teléfono. You're always on the phone. Like, you can't be, and it's really true. Like, if I don't have my phone, I'm like, it's now a crutch. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And I try to disconnect, and it's not fair to people that I'm around sometimes. Yeah, I definitely make it a point that when I'm sitting at a table, I don't put the phone on the table. Right? I try to keep it away because it's disrespectful. And I know that sometimes when I'm spending time with friends and I'll start texting, for example, my friend Angela look at me and she goes like, yeah. It's like, who are you with right now? And, we all know that there's other people in our life that we want to touch base with. And, go ahead, do so, especially if there's a family emergency or
Right.
whatnot. But if you're spending like intentional time, uh, and I'm really trying to make a point of this, if you're spending intentional time with someone, to zero in on that time. And then if you need that moment, you can communicate that I need a moment to like connect with fulanito or my mom or whatever the case may be. But
And
I am a workaholic.
I am that way too. I am. I love what I do. I love photography is my passion, and I love what I do. And it's like it's fun to network. But I do the same thing with my phone. Like when I'm hanging out with people, I put it away. I don't think about it unless it's work related to our podcast, where we have to post at a certain time. Then I take a couple of minutes for that. But that's it. Other than that, I don't want to think about my phone.
Yeah. And there's moments where it's like, okay, estamos en grupo, or I'm in a work environment and I want to take a thing and I'm sharing the experience. There's shareable moments, but then you bring it back to the moment at hand.
Right.
And I know that there was a time when I was artistic director of the Fringe Festival, my friends wanted to slap me silly because I would literally tote around my laptop everywhere. And if there was Wi-Fi, I would set up shop and emails. And it was midnight, 1 a.m. Everybody's getting drunk and having a great time. Vanessa, come karaoke. It's the time. It's the moment. And I was, and it was bad.
I used to be like that. My sister will be like, otra vez en la computadora, and I'm like, and this is where like I used to have like photo shoots right after another, and I'm always like, I'm coming. You just let me this one photo, one last photo, and I'm spending time with them. But it's like I had to work as well because I was an independent artist. I was a photographer who that was my income. So
Right. And what's so funny, and maybe after this, it would be a good time to play Therapist Helen's video, because in that video that I keep mentioning about the Vietnam vets and thing,
yeah,
they talk about how addiction, right? Not the journey back from addiction, right, to sobriety. So like the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And that's true in life. Like connecting to other people can really change where you're at. Connecting to your environment, connecting to Mother Nature can really put you in a different headspace, can help you really recognize your purpose
I realized
and
that
not feel like you need to escape or like there's something
exactly.
tragically wrong with you or with what you can offer.
That's why
Um, then
That's what I always think about. I always think about that part. It's like, are you living and are you experiencing your life to the fullest, or are you just waiting for something good to happen so you can get out of your funk or
right,
this addiction or whatever you have? And that's
right.
why I always say to live your life with purpose or try to find one and live it. Because if not, like you said, you're gonna go down that path, and it's like that's not what you want.
It's like a downward spiral. You're already there. And Helen talks about this in her video clip, and we have this conversation a lot about supporting or feeding the negative, right,
Right.
of what we don't want to do. And this is a very common thing that we hear about, the secret and the we gooey thing, but it's very true. We place so much emphasis on what we do not wish to be, what we don't want to do, versus what we would like to achieve, what the goal would be, and putting the efforts into that. And she talks also about um, how sometimes a lot of this comes from a feeling of loneliness, right? A feeling on the outs. And I that's why the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection really spoke to me. Because when you don't feel alone, you feel a lot more willing and motivated to find your way out of that hole. I feel, or at least I have with my addictions that I would never claim are to the level of someone who has an addiction to a substance that really takes it to a different level, because now it's something else dictating your entire body.
Have you ever had that feeling where you're probably social media and then you read something, you're like, I'm not alone. You
Oh
know,
my God, yeah.
I love that feeling because I'm like, oh, I'm not alone. And it literally makes you feel so much better because
Hmm.
you're not. You're like, wow, somebody else is experiencing this. And then you try to reach out and see a different perspective and try to get help. And it's a good feeling because it's funny how you could feel alone when there's 8 billions of people in the world.
Absolutely. And it's crazy because they say a lot of these addictions to like social media, etc., things that are supposed to be connecting us actually pull us further apart. In like in that same video, it talks about how actual area space in homes has become more spacious. People have less things, they're becoming more minimalist, but people are also growing apart.
Right,
Pandemic notwithstanding, obviously. But
right,
people have not made it a point or found the need to literally connect, right? And I found that really interesting. So, with these addictions to our devices and to our ethers,
yeah.
I think it's important to use those things. Like I'm very big on posting quotey quotes or looking for them and have them motivate me, inspire me. When I got into that funk that triggered me that I was in just a bad space, the first thing I went to was, you know, the quotes and looking at plus size models that inspire me, you know, reframing, rewriting that narrative, that story I had told myself in my head about what it meant to look like me. And but at the same time, it can also be very separating because people can be cruel and spend time to only focus on nitpicking things
Right.
apart. How sad.
I don't know what they get out of it anyway, but okay.
I
Good
don't
for
either.
you. Good for you. I
So
hope you feel better.
I'm going to prepare this for y'all. Okay, let me prepare. I'm going to screen share on No Filters, No Fears for the first time, episode 14. And so, as a mini intro, therapist Helen, uh, I adore you beyond words. And you've always been so supportive about No Filters, No Fears. And I love when you pop in here and help us out. Helen has a master's in psychology and is a mental health therapist intern. Um, and I'm going to share with you voice, her voice clip, which we made into a little video. And I'm gonna screen share. And I've never done this. It's loading, so we're gonna let that baby load.
Oh, but you got it
And if
afterward?
it takes too long, I'm just gonna show. Yeah, I got it. It's just now loading on my end. And if it doesn't happen, then I'm just gonna push. You know what? I'm just gonna do the image because I think it might go a little quicker if I do it like this and play it from my phone. And we're gonna be posting it on the No Filters, No Fear Instagram and Facebook, the video. So you'll see her picture, her information, and hear the sound clip. Vamos a ver.
And
I'm
again,
going
thank you
to
very much
take
for
my
lending us
phone.
your voice and your insights and your brain for this. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. And it is officially going to be a hashtag. Hashtag therapist Helen. But she now, oh, perfect. I know. Hold on. I need to pause it and rewind. I don't know if you'll be able to hear the audio, is my only concern.
Click on share audio. Oh wait,
Oh, that would make sense, right? Hold on. I'm trying to make it full screen. Here we go.
guys, as you know, we need a tech person. Where's Danny when you need him?
Danny, you left us, Danny. Hold on. Let me. Oh, Kaka. Okay.
Another hashtag.
So, you know, Kaka, because yes. So is this still gonna pop up if I have this here? Yes. Good, because I don't need people looking at what's on my chat.
Just make
Share
sure.
audio. Let us know. Hi, Danny. No, no, we fixed it now, I think. So I'm going to try sharing this now. We're gonna share my screen. Play. That's the lovely Helen.
name is Hannah Rodriguez, and I am a mental health intern. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about addiction. And I think one of the main things I wanted to denote is how do we know, right? So I think it's important to consider all of the areas in our lives that we consider important. So it's a teenager, school, home, family life, and what's the internal experience. And if it's an adult, it's the same thing, just replace school with work. And those are the main four areas of our lives. So if you find yourself trying to say, I'm going to quit today, and you're not quitting, maybe it's not necessarily impacting, for example, your family life or your work life, or how you feel about yourself. If you're trying to quit cigarettes, for example. But when you see that it begins to interfere in all the areas of your life, that's when you really need to take notice. Addiction comes in many shapes, sizes. It can take many different forms. Um, it could be addicted to substances. It could be addicted to relationships. It could be addicted to the highs and lows of having chaos in your life. So when you see that you're really trying to fall away from a specific pattern, you're struggling with it, using those four areas of your life is a good way to determine, how severe is this problem. Is it just how I'm feeling about myself and it's inviting me to change? Or is my family coming in and telling me, hey, you really have to think about this, it's impacting you? Are you finding that you're calling out of work because you need to spend more time to yourself and you're beginning to isolate? If you're out there and you're struggling with addiction, you're not alone. I would say find a friend that you can confide in, find the 12-step program, and just put your story out there. One of the biggest things that drives our addiction is this feeling of isolation and shame. And you're going to see that just by putting your story out there, you're not going to feel as alone. And again, find a sponsor. That's such an integral part. Get yourself some help.
That was Helen. And that there at the end, freerehabcenters.org is the kind of database of different rehabilitation centers that you can put wherever you are in the US, and it'll kind of give you a guideline, but also definitely get a sponsor, definitely go to local support groups for whatever your addiction may be, but find a mental health professional that can help you and help guide you to these rehab centers. Shubi and I didn't really want to put any rehab centers directly ourselves, um, because uh, we are not therapists. And also, that's part of the journey in finding your mental health professional that can help you find the organization or the program that is best suited for you, uh, to find your road back to recovery. And I like this connection. Although we know that sobriety in whatever form that may take, from substance abuse or sobriety from finding abusive partners or whatever the case may be, that's very meaningful to the people who've survived it and lived to tell the story, and came back. It's a huge milestone to say 1 week sober, 2 years sober, 5 years sober. That's huge and that's beautiful. And if any of you that are listening are on that journey and have been sober for a day, an hour, 3 years, 50 years, I congratulate you. It is very difficult and you are kicking all of the ass and continuing to look out for you and those around you. Everyone takes on their dark passenger. Yes. Hmm.
Oh, you're
From
reading
Dexter.
this one.
Dexter from Peter, yeah.
And that's the thing, most people do not understand. Oh, you're 1 week sober. Well, good for you. No, they really don't understand. Because if you've never been through any type of addiction, you don't know how hard it is. I mean, obviously, I'm using the basics of what I know because it's happened just Coca Cola, because it's honestly just
Yeah.
the worst for me, because that's my truth and that was what I was addicted to. First, it was like 4 or 5 cans a day, and then it went to like 3, and then it like reduce slowly,
Yeah.
but still, it's like, and then when you say 6 years later, you're like, holy hell, one sporadic Coca-Cola here, but you could just let it go.
Right.
It's
Some
still
people,
something. So I
yeah.
mean, imagine the heavier drugs, like
Yeah,
you
some people
are
don't have that option. They have like what they coin as the gateway drugs.
right.
If you are addicted to heavier drugs and you even venture into a gateway drug, it's a difficult, it's a slippery slope um for them. In keeping with transparency and the no filters and no fears, I definitely want to talk about somebody who was massively important in my life, who I lost to addiction. And they were sober for 5 years. And it took one time of them slipping back into it for it to affect their health. I will tell your mom to stop. It
Please,
took,
for real.
yeah, it took one time for them to come back, and their body was not ready for it. So it wasn't even that they were just so heavy into it again. Their body just couldn't take it. It was still struggling to get back to its tip top shape, and he was already so delicate from so many years of the abuse. And on one side, a lot of us were, of course, you're sad for yourself. You lost someone you love. And on the other end, you do recognize that it is a disease that is very difficult to fight and that it is a constant, everyday battle. I can specifically talk about substance abuse. It is an everyday battle and it's difficult for them. Um, so it was a release and for him in that sense, but it's definitely sad to see such a beautiful light go out for something like that. So, and this doesn't just apply to those that are the addicts. If you are the family member of somebody who is having difficulty with addictions of any kind, be kind, be patient, and help them get help. Oh,
It's okay.
it's really rough because when you go back and you think, it's human nature to like stand outside and be like, what could I have done differently? I should have done. We can't really take that blame or that responsibility either. But
Yeah.
at the same time, we definitely can be a little bit more cognizant, of those that are in our life that we really care about, that we know battle those kinds of things. How strong an addiction is until that person has it, acknowledges it, which is a huge step in general. Yep. Oopa.
It's okay.
Ugh. Oh, I just realized you know who I'm talking about.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, now that just. I didn't know.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I know.
and
I
that's
really.
the thing. We put a face to addiction that has nothing to do with what it is, right? This kind of lascivious, kind of evil, uh, crappy human being, right? We put this face to this disease, and that's not at all what it looks like all the time. And we judge that. We have that judgment, and we put that shame to it for these individuals, and we impede that growth, that healing
Yeah.
process sometimes, as a society and as families, as friends. It's
Like
crazy.
we talked about the stigma always.
Yeah.
I honestly did not know. Now you just got me thinking. I did not know.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you didn't know.
No, no,
You hadn't seen them in a while. You hadn't seen them in a while.
no, I
But
yeah.
yeah. So, but it's still, it's one of those things that stays with me. Shortly after that, I had to play a cocaine addict, and cocaine is a scary thing for me. I've talked about, we had just talked about it earlier in the episode, how it's a big thing in my family, and I've seen people in my family get lost down that rabbit hole. And it's one of those things that I really stay away from that scares the bejesus out of me. Um, and I had to play a cocaine addict in a show shortly after the passing of this person who was massively important to me. And knowing what their constant battles and demons were, right? The dark passenger, um, like Peter said before. And it helped me get closure, Vanessa, but it also helped me understand that side from a different perspective, of what those individuals are really going through and fighting through. And that, man, it's not just them wanting to steal and wanting, they need, it's a need, it's a craving to survive. Their body is asking them for it. They have been, their bodies are going through all of these things, and the scratching and it was so intense to do the research. It was intense to play the role.
Right.
And the responses after were also really intense. I got somebody spit in my face, so, but isn't that very telling of the kind of perception that we have of these situations and these individuals? I mean, it was a despicable situation. Like, damn, why you got to be like that? But at the same time, this person it was very valid to them why they were acting this way, what their fear was. It's difficult. It's difficult to be the helper, and it's difficult to be the helpee because you don't want to ask for help.
Right.
All of these eggs.
Most people don't realize that your brain changes, like your thought patterns, your behavior, everything.
The chemistry.
Your chemistry with your addiction changes, and you will act like a different person, And it's hard when you don't ask for help, and then the person doesn't understand why you're acting this way. And then when you do figure out why, it's like it changes the whole dynamic now. But sometimes it's too late.
Yeah. Guys, in the chat, because we still got some time, do you have any questions, comments, concerns, opinions that you would like to share? Did you learn something? Is there anything that would be helpful to you? At the bottom on the scroll, you see a couple of websites. Some hot.
Yeah.
Oh, just one for now? Okay, but we'll be posting about the other hotlines where you can reach out and they can point you in the right direction for yourself or for a friend. There's this quote that I really love, and therapist Helen, it's actually one of her favorite quotes too. At least she uses it frequently. We're all walking each other home. Helen, maybe you can tell us where that's from or what the actual quote is. But yes, we are individuals unto ourselves, learning ourselves, who we are, what we want in life, how to best communicate that, how to set our boundaries and all of that. But there is still something to be said for community and connection and being there for one another. And I think a lot of that is lacking. The collective consciousness is waking up. And part of that is like learning to help each other without having that need to perpetuate these ideas of what is shameful, what is normal, because we are making ourselves into a really scary society because we push away people for differences that they may or may not be able to control.
We just have to learn how to be kind to each other.
Ciao, yes.
But before this gets any longer, that
or
website,
sadder,
that website you guys see at the scroll is the National Health Line. The substance abuse and mental health services. So this one is a 24/7, 365-day-a-year treatment referral. Meaning you go to them for whatever your particular addiction is, and they will help you. They will guide you to a better treatment center for you and for your families and the individuals with any substance disorders that you have. And they provide for your local facilities and support groups or community-based organizations. So you have different types of way of getting help. So, and there's a phone number as well, which I will add just in case anyone wants to share with anybody that you guys know.
Um, is there going to be a Chubby's book corner today?
This was
No.
a 411 with Chubby.
411 with Chubby. I dig it. Um,
Yes, just this one.
now that she just mentioned that the quote is from Ram Dass, of course it spoke to me. I'm reading a Ram Dass book right now, actually. Ram Dass, this book is actually not him. I believe it's actually a psychologist who went through 3 different stages in his journey. And he says it right here, like on the first page. The journey was social science stage, right? His successes as a psychotherapist and moving on in that world, to psychedelic stage. I'm gonna let y'all interpret what that means. To yogi stage, which is the lessons of Ram Dass and how it led him to awakening and understanding of things. I'm not saying you got to be a yogi or or anything like that. But just like Chubi and I have talked about, what'd you say? What is your hashtag, Chubi?
Reading
About
is essential.
reading is essential. Whether it's about yourself, to understand certain things about yourself, or to understand another perspective, another community. It's kind of our responsibility to understand each other in that way. Oh,
Right.
I don't know what, Mormons do. I don't know what the Japanese culture is about. No one's saying that you have to fall into those things, but you may want to learn about it because we all live on the same planet. And Music Mondays.
Yes. Oh, this one was a
Damn,
fun
you went
one.
ham. I hadn't really added any songs yet. I added like a couple, and I'm so glad. Oh no, I non-collaborative and I didn't want to do that. So as you know, all of our playlists on No Filters, No Fears music are collaborative albums.
Is it public yet?
Is it? Let me
No, it
see. Let
wasn't
me
public when I went. There's this one
Made
song.
public. It's public now. Officially public. It's called Addicted 14. And
There's
of
this one
course, we
song
have
that
a lot of
you see.
Depeche Mode on there. Go ahead.
There's one song that you see that has a heart. Like that's one of my favorite one. Addicted to Love, and the other one was Beautiful Addiction. That one, oh my lord, those two.
Right. Some of the songs obviously have to. It's really funny because I'm a huge Depeche Mode fan. And I've known that a lot of their songs have to do with sobriety or uh, coming back from drug addiction. But some of them are legit about drugs and the feeling
Yeah.
while they're on the drug. And we have attached the story of it's such a beautiful love song. It's not about love. But that's crazy. This is the magic of music, ladies and gentlemen. Um, so, of course, as usual, every possible genre. Look at that. Got a little guitar. I just heard a little reggaeton before. Still no heavy metal reggaeton.
Well, Peter, you're all
Right?
I can literally see which ones you're playing from here.
Oh, you can?
It's crazy.
There's a lot of, obviously, my brain goes straight to.
It's literally telling me what phone is playing this song.
Oh, that's
This
awesome.
technology.
I had difficulty going back because I got to go back now and add the songs that I wanted to. Always. Ooh, this is pretty. And of course, a lot of these have to do with addiction itself. I am putting a lot of songs that have to do with like the coming out of it, finding the light part. Addicted to my ex. Oopa.
Yeah, that's
that happens a lot. That's something that we didn't really talk about too much, but it's definitely a thing. Being addicted to a past relationship or to a relationship. Helen mentioned it. Henshin. I speak English. Avicii. Oh.
The fact that you could change the PlayStation if I'm playing it over here is insane. Technology.
So now you guys know. Go check it out on Spotify. No filters. Hi, Agustin. So good to see you. Bueno, you know what I mean. So definitely check it out. Our next episode is on love languages. I'm excited. I'm excited for that episode.
That's an exciting one. It's probably like what? A 1, maybe a 2?
I don't know. Some people take it real. Hey, it'll be like a 2. A 2.
We'll
It'll be
give
nice.
it a 2.
We try giving you guys a little bit of fluctuation because even for us, it's a little comeback time because you guys are getting the 1 hour, max 2 hour version of this, but we do the week long reading and long 3 to 4 hour discussions that we do. And so it becomes, don't worry, we're here every Monday at 8 p.m. Or today we were like 15 minutes late, but we won't tell you that.
It gets emotionally draining for us because we are reading about it.
Yeah.
I've shared stories on our Instagram, and we just want to get educated on something that, we may have heard of it or seen it, but we don't know really much about it. And getting in contact with therapists and people's stories, and it's draining emotionally.
Absolutely. And we try to take care of our mental health because it's important, because a lot of these topics speak to our heart and our soul, either because it rings close to home for personal reasons or because of people that we know and love. So, and we also understand that it's the same for you. We're not going to give you level 5 elephants every week because that would just be intense.
Oh, no.
So, and love languages, if you don't really understand it, it can get a little intense, but it's a happier, lighter, funner episode. And we'll try to fluctuate like that. But addiction it's an important episode. And as we all know, all of our episodes end up tying together at one point or another. So, well, it'll probably be revisited somehow.
Just try to be understanding and receptive and caring and being there and seeing how you could help the person that's addicted
And need
any way. And just be there for them.
if you need help finding resources, maybe we can help you, give you give you hotlines, or put you in contact with mental health professionals that can put you in the right direction. We won't be able to help directly as much as we would like to. We are not therapists, but we can definitely be a source, like a springboard for resources, and we happily do that for all of you, or for those of your nearest and dearest who need the help. And
Remember,
I
we
was gonna
added
say, but
some links.
the what?
The links?
Oh yeah, you say that.
We added some links to our link tree. So they will be right after our online store. There will be about 4 links that will be there for however long we want it to be, maybe a week. I don't know, into our next episode. And I hope you guys check it out. I hope you guys share it. If you have any that you guys think are also helpful, give it share. Send us our way so we can also post it and let everybody know as well.
Absolutely.